Hi there, and welcome to my YouTube podcast. If you don't know me, my name is Rachel Ruki. On this letter, this is a continuation of that anniversary series, and I'm going to be talking about embracing your own journey as a Christian. It's just as simple. Embrace your own journey. This is something that I've had to learn because, okay, we're just going to get into all of it, but I remember like when I first got saved, again, it was during COVID, and there were no churches that were open, and we used to do online church. And because of that, I was not exposed to people as much. And like even the people that like I was exposed to online is not the same like when you meet people in person. And so I thought we are all like walking the same journey. And okay, let me say this: we're all walking the same journey, but then the way we are walking that journey is totally different. Let me say it that way. Because there's so many factors that determine how God is going to work with you, because we are all different, like, and then we all have different backgrounds. Like there's somebody who used to be a Satanist before they got saved, and then there's somebody who was like saved before they got saved. Like sometimes you have conversations with people and they tell you, oh my God, I love to hear stories about people who were actually like in the world before they got saved. Because me, I was like a good girl before I got saved. I just got saved. Like I was a good girl, but then I got saved. Like I wasn't like crazy. And then there are people who like now you listen to their stories and they tell you like the way they used to do this and that and those and so many things, and then now they got saved. Or people who are using witchcraft and then they got saved, like you get, or people that were atheist and then they got saved. So like because of that, like our journeys are all different, and I don't know why it had never occurred to me that we're walking the same journey but our journeys are different. So I'll give another example for context. Have you ever gone to someone's house and their child started crying, and then maybe they have, let's say they have two children. So when one child starts crying, they pick up that child and then they put them on their shoulders and begin to pat them like, sorry. And then maybe the other child, when that other child starts to cry, they're like, just leave that one alone, because they're just doing a tantrum. And you're probably thinking like, how comes like you're treating them differently? Like how comes this one gets a hug and this one doesn't get a hug? Like how comes this one we're being told to achane na yeye, and then this one is being shown like the love, and then it looks like this parent is being mean or something. But once you decide to stay with those people, even if it's for a week, you will slowly realize why that parent treats them differently, because they are the same, like they are their children, but they have different personalities. So this one probably was doing a tantrum, and maybe that's how they behave. And so because they have known the behavior of this child, they just know this one is just going to throw a tantrum and then they're going to stop, because even whatever they're crying about doesn't even make sense. But this one is crying genuinely, and that's why I'm treating them like that. So I just wanted to give a little bit of context so that you can understand what I say, but like what I mean when I say like we are walking different journeys, but we're walking the same journey. So the way that God will work with you is not the way that God will work with somebody else. And that is something that I think we just need to take a minute and meditate on. Let's go back to the whole COVID thing. Because now I got saved during COVID, I used to watch a lot of TikTok and a lot of YouTube, because now that was my church. And because of that, I got to hear a lot of things. I got to learn a lot of things. There was a lot of confusion. And now I was hearing some people saying, God told me to stop doing makeup, and Christians should not be doing makeup. And then you come across another video, God told me I shouldn't be wearing this fabric, I should only be wearing linen. Or God told me I should not do my hair at all, like I should have my hair like it's natural hair. Or like there was just so many videos that I came across. And I remember, because I was still very young in faith, I was so confused. I was like, so anytime I would do those things, like for example, anytime I would do makeup, I just feel so convicted, like, wow, maybe I'm not even supposed to be doing makeup, you know, like, because, and it's not a conviction from the Holy Spirit, it's a guilt, because I've had somebody in a video talking about the way God told them to stop using certain products, or to stop doing this, or to stop doing that. And then me, God had never given me those kinds of, you know, convictions. And so I remember, like, I was so confused, and I was like, wow, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And then now, because of that, I sort of started becoming judgmental. So for example, like, if I had watched a video about somebody, who was told to stop doing makeup, and then for example, like, I watch a YouTube someone, and then maybe it's a lady and she's wearing makeup, I'd just be looking at her face the whole time and wondering, like, why are you wearing makeup? You know, as in, or like, how comes God has not told you not to wear makeup? You know, like, instead of listening to what was being taught. And so there was a lot of confusion because of, like, those two videos. So now, finally, COVID ends, and then now I join a church. And so when I joined the church congregation, at this point, I think God has started to, like, help me get clarity about these issues, and he had started to show me like, what he's okay with and what he's not okay with, and all that. And then now I got a spiritual mentor. That's why I talked about mentorship in that other video. I got a spiritual mentor who also helped to sort of give me advice, or basically on some of the things that I was confused about. But it had not hit me properly just how different our journeys are. So I remember, like, having a conversation with a group of people about, like, how I got saved and the things I experienced. And I remember just telling them, and these people just were looking at me with shock. They were like, what? Like, you went through that, you know? And then me, I'm just there, like, Kwani, not all of us went through the same thing. Like, not Kwani, I'm the only one who went through that. Like, you didn't go through that. Like, you didn't go through that. And I realized, oh my God, like, people's journeys are so different. They're so different. So there's a few things that I went through after I got saved, and I realized it's not everybody that goes through that. But I also realized that there's people who went through what I went through, and went through worse things than I went through. And then there are people who have absolutely no idea about what you're talking about. So when you begin to tell them, they're a bit shocked. Some of them are even judgmental, because they're like, huh? Like, how? Okay. But basically, so now when I started to interact with people, I started to realize that, you know, again, our journeys are different. So now, because of this issue about our journeys being different, sometimes when things are not going according to the way that we would want, we start to compare ourselves. And if there is something that can ruin your journey, let me tell you, is comparison. If there is something that can make you depressed, anxious, stressed, all those things to do with mental health, all of those things, it is comparing yourself, comparing your journey with another person. And I found myself in that place where I was comparing myself. Like, when things started to get hard, I started to compare myself. And I remember just wondering, like, God, why is my journey so different? Like, why is this person not going through what me I'm going through? Why is this person not even being able to relate to my struggles, because they're not going through what I'm going through? And then it even becomes worse when you're going through something that other people, okay, let me say this. When you're going through something that around your circle, you're the only one who is going through that. So there's nobody to relate, like, there's nobody who can relate with what you're struggling with. You get, like, all your friends, they're all going through their own struggles, but this one, the one you're going through, is just yours alone. So, like, I found myself in a place where I was really stressed, and I just wondered, like, why is it that my journey is different from my friend's journey? Like, it reached a point where I couldn't even share what I was going through. But by the grace of God, I had a spiritual mentor who understood exactly what I was going through, because they had dealt with that before. And that's why, again, going back to that issue of mentorship, guys, you need a spiritual authority over you. It's so important, because they are the people who stick, whatever, who stand with you during tough times. They're the people who are able to pray for you. They're the people who are able to work with you. That's if you get the right people, because there are times when you're going through a certain thing and it's only you who understands what you're going through. Nobody else around you understands what you're going through. So even as I continued to walk, I realized that some of the convictions that I had were totally different from other people. And I remember actually recently, the other day, I was having a discussion with some of my friends. We were talking about modesty. And we realized that we actually have very different thoughts about modesty. And the way that I've been convicted and the way that my friends have been convicted is totally different. It's not completely different, because again, we're supposed to be modest, but it's different because mine, like my view of modesty, was a bit more stricter than them. But when we started talking about it, I remember telling them, and maybe this is something that I'm going to talk about one day on this podcast, the issue of modesty and self-esteem and all those things, that the reason as to why my modesty journey had to be a bit more stricter than theirs was because I had a history of body issues with body image. And so clothing was something that sort of was something that aided the issues that I was going through. So how I dressed made my issues worse. And so by the time I was getting saved, God had to have a chit chat with me about modesty, because God knew very well that if I was to continue dressing the same way, and if I was to continue dressing the same way, this issue would not have ended, because now the way that I was dressing was making my situation worse. But then now, when we discussed with my friends, I realized that for them they don't have such kind of issues, and them they haven't really had struggled with that, so they can't really understand my convictions. And so the essence of this video, as I share all of these things, is that I just want to show you how different our journeys can be, and why it's wrong for you to compare yourself with other people, why it's wrong for you to look at other people's journey and neglect your own journey and start trying to walk like other people, because the purpose that God has for you is totally different from somebody else. The convictions that God has given you could be different from somebody else because of where God is taking you, or because of where God is or because of whatever purpose God has for you. It's very wrong to compare yourself, because the purpose that God has for you could be totally different from somebody else. And let me just use this example. The way that a rapper dresses is not the way that maybe the president would dress, or maybe the queen or the king, because the rapper is an entertainer, but the president has to look serious because he's a symbol of, I don't know, yeah, it definitely is. Is a symbol of national unity, and so you have to look put together, and you have to look like somebody who's serious, so that people can look at you. But then when you're like, if you're in the entertainment industry, you have to look a certain way because you're an entertainer, and already just when people see you on stage, the way that you look is already sending a message, and it's already exciting them, because they're like, oh my God, like you know what I'm saying. And it's the same thing with our journeys. Like, where God is taking us is different, and so God might convict you about the way you dress because he has an assignment for you somewhere. But then God might not convict somebody else. God might convict someone not to wear makeup because maybe makeup was an idol. But God might not convict somebody else. That is why, for me, I just have a struggle with people who do videos and tell people what to do. Like, Christians are not supposed to be doing this. And especially if it's things that have not been clearly stated in the Bible, or at least things that the Bible has attempted to mention. Somebody's coming and saying, oh, Christians are not supposed to wear this, Christians are not supposed to do this. like, if that's the conviction that God has given you, then that's the conviction that God has given you. But coming and forcing it on other people, I don't agree with it, because our journeys are totally different. And so I want to encourage anybody that is watching this, embrace your journey. Like, even if you're looking at your journey and you're wondering, like, why is my journey so different? Embrace it, because when you look back, you will realize that there's a reason as to why God had to take you through whatever God took you through. And if we are to look at the Bible, you'll realize, like, all these people in the Bible had different journeys. The journey that Joseph went through is not the same journey that Moses went through. It's not the same journey that David went through. The journey, let's even use the kings. The journey that Saul went through in order to become king, and the journey that David went through in order to become king is two totally different journeys. But they all became king. But the outcome was different, and the purpose was different. And so, the purpose was different, was it? No, the purpose, they were all kings of Israel. But basically, their journeys were different, and God had a reason as to why Saul didn't have to go through what David went through, and Solomon didn't have to go through what David went through. But then, if you look at those journeys, you learn a lot from them. Like, they are unique in their own way, and there's lessons that we can take from each of those journeys. Okay, yeah. So it's important for you to embrace your journey and embrace the season that you're in. Embrace the season that you're in. The other day I was meditating, and actually I think I wrote it on my status, if I'm not wrong. I think I did. And I was meditating on the way that sometimes when you're in a certain season, it's easy for you, like, to compare yourself with other people so much that you don't even get to embrace the blessings that are actually there in that season. Like, you can find you're in a hard season. Let's say, for example, you're in a season where you don't have a job, and you're really just meditating on the way that when you have a job, how life will be different for you. But at that moment, you have a blessing, which is rest. It might look like it's not like a blessing, but it's actually a blessing, because when other people are waking up at 5 a.m. to go to work, you're waking up at 8, because again, you're not going to work or anything. But God has given you this season for you to just rest, because once that season shifts, forget about sleep. But then now, when you're in that season, like, you find it hard to embrace it, because you're comparing yourself with other people. You're comparing your season with other people because you just wish that things could change. But then now, when you shift into the other season, that's when you look back and you're like, wow. And by that season, I really used to sleep. And now you begin to wish that you actually embraced that blessing of rest during that season. And so it's important to embrace your own journey, because when you embrace your journey and embrace how God is taking you through, you're able to even see through the hardships, and you're able to see, like, the blessings that God has given you during that season. So, my dear brother and sister who has watched this, I repeat again, this is a word that spoke to me, and I hope that it has spoken to you. Embrace your journey and be bold about your journey and where God is taking you, because God has a reason as to why He's taking you through whatever He has taken you through. God has a reason as to why He has convicted you the way He has convicted you about different things. So with that said and done, I've come to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching. Please, if you enjoy this if you enjoy this content, please don't forget to subscribe, to like, to share, tell a friend, tell another friend, and another friend, and another friend. And then also, I shout out my super producer, Joe Kiaria, for doing an amazing job. Yeah. Bye.